Doctor, you used to live on Maple Street, number 237, when you were 6 years old. There was a mango tree in the backyard, and your mother always made brownies on Sunday afternoons. Dr. Edward Carvalho froze. His hands trembled imperceptibly over his clipboard as he stared at the 8-year-old boy sitting across from him. The child spoke with a disturbing serenity, as if he were commenting on the weather. It had all started routinely that Thursday morning at the pediatric office. Miguel's mother, Mrs. Clara, had brought her son because he'd been saying strange things and having constant nightmares. Typical cases of exaggerated childhood imagination, the doctor had thought. "Doctor, my son insists he's lived before," the woman had explained, visibly embarrassed. "He talks about places we've never visited, people we don't know. Other doctors said it's just a phase, but..." Dr. Edward had interrupted with a condescending smile. 30 years of pediatrics gave him the authority to quickly classify these childhood delusions. Imaginative children, anxious parents too, much internet. The prescription was always the same: less screen time, more physical activity, maybe some relaxation exercises. "Miguel," the doctor said, adjusting his glasses with a professorial air, "I understand you think you remember things from before you were born, but that's impossible, son. Our memories only begin after we're born. What you're experiencing is probably something you saw on TV or heard adults talking about." The boy looked at him with eyes that seemed far too old for his young face. There was something unsettling in that gaze, a depth that made the doctor's confidence waver for a brief moment. "I know you don't believe me, Dr. Edward," Miguel said calmly. "Just like you didn't believe your own son when he told you about the nightmares with the old man in the blue coat." The clipboard slipped from the doctor's hands, clattering to the floor. Mrs. Clara looked confused, but Dr. Edward felt the blood drain from his face. His son Thomas had died in a car accident 15 years ago. The nightmares about an old man in a blue coat had been Thomas's secret, something he'd only shared with his father in hushed bedtime conversations. How do you know about that?" the doctor whispered, his voice barely audible. Miguel tilted his head slightly, as if listening to something only he could hear. "Because I am Thomas, Dad. I came back." The room fell into absolute silence. Mrs. Clara's eyes widened in shock, her hand flying to cover her mouth. The doctor felt his world spinning, his rational mind desperately trying to find a logical explanation, while his heart pounded against his ribcage. That's impossible," Dr. Edward stammered. "Thomas was my son. He died. You're Miguel. You're this lady's son." "I know it's hard to understand," the boy continued with unnerving patience. "But I remember everything. I remember how you used to read me stories about pirates before bed. I remember the scar on your left knee from when you fell off your bike as a child. I remember Mom's perfume, the one that smelled like jasmine, and how she hummed while cooking. Details. Intimate, personal details that no 8-year-old stranger could possibly know." Dr. Edward felt his scientific skepticism crumbling, like a house of cards in a hurricane. "You always doubted yourself after the accident," Miguel went on, his voice gentle but piercing. "You blamed yourself for letting me go to that party. You stopped celebrating your birthday because it was the same day I died. You kept my baseball glove in your desk drawer at home, and sometimes you still take it out just to smell the leather." Dr. Edward's legs gave way, and he collapsed into his chair. Tears began streaming down his face as 15 years of buried grief came rushing back. Every word the boy spoke was true. Every detail was perfect. Things he'd never told anyone, not even his wife. Mrs. Clara stood up, clearly disturbed. I think we should go. This is getting too strange." But Miguel remained seated, his eyes fixed on the doctor. "I know you need proof, Dad. I know your scientific mind needs evidence, so here it is. The night before the accident, I told you I was scared. Not about the party, but about leaving you alone. I said I'd find a way to come back if something happened. Do you remember what you told me?" Through his tears, Dr. Edward nodded slowly. He remembered that conversation perfectly. It had haunted him for years because it had been their last heart-to-heart talk. "You said that love transcends death. That the people we love never really leave us because they live on in our hearts and memories. You said that if there was a way to come back, love would find it. Miguel's voice was soft, filled with an emotion too mature for his years. Well, Dad, love found a way. The doctor looked up at this boy who claimed to be his deceased son, the Abi. Facial features were different, the hair color, even the eye color. But something in those eyes, something in the way he moved his hands when he spoke, something indefinable yet unmistakably familiar, made Dr. Edward's heart recognize what his mind couldn't accept. But how? He whispered. How is this possible? I don't understand all of it myself, Miguel admitted. I just remember floating in a place that wasn't quite light, wasn't quite dark. I could see you grieving, and it hurt so much to watch you suffer. Then there was this pull, this overwhelming need to come back, to let you know I was okay. The next thing I remember is being aware inside Mrs. Clara's belly, knowing I was going to be born again but keeping all my memories from before. Mrs. Clara, who had been listening with growing amazement, slowly sat back down. Is that why you never acted like a normal baby? You were always so aware. Even as a toddler, you seemed to understand things that children your age shouldn't understand. Miguel nodded. It was confusing at first, having an adult mind in a child's body, remembering a father who wasn't the man raising me, missing a life that technically never belonged to this body. But I knew I had to find you, Dad. I knew I had to let you know that death isn't the end. Dr. Edward wiped his eyes, his scientific training warring with the inexplicable evidence before him. If you're really Thomas, what was the last thing you said to me? Without hesitation, Miguel smiled. And for a moment, Dr. Edward could swear he saw his son's smile in the boy's face. I said, "Don't worry, Dad. I'll always be your boy no matter what." And then I hugged you and said I'd see you later. I kept that promise, didn't I? The doctor broke down completely, sobbing as 15 years of grief, guilt, and loss poured out of him. He had spent years questioning his faith, his beliefs, his very understanding of life and death. And here, in the most unexpected way, in the most impossible circumstances, he was being given an answer that defied everything he thought he knew about the world. Mrs. Clara, tears in her own eyes, gently placed her hand on the doctor's shoulder. Miguel has always been special. Even when he was very young, he would comfort me when I was sad, as if he understood pain in a way children shouldn't. Now I understand why. What happens now? Dr. Edward asked, looking up at the boy who was somehow his son. What am I supposed to do with this information? Miguel reached across the desk and placed his small hand over his father's much larger one. You live, Dad. You stop blaming yourself for my death. You start celebrating your birthday again. You find joy in the fact that love really is stronger than death. And maybe, if Mrs. Clara agrees, you could be part of my life in this new form. Not as my father, she's my mom now, but as someone who understands the miracle of second chances. Mrs. Clara nodded through her tears. Of course. If this is real, if Miguel is really your son somehow returned, then your family. Miguel has always asked about having a grandfather. Maybe now I understand why. Dr. Edward looked at the boy with new eyes. The skeptical physician in him still struggled to accept what couldn't be explained by medical science. But the father, in him, the part that had never stopped grieving, felt a peace he hadn't experienced in 15 years. There's something else, Dad, Miguel said quietly. I'm not the only one. There are others who've come back, who remember their past lives. The universe is far more mysterious and wonderful than we give it credit for. Death isn't an ending. It's just a pause between chapters. As the consultation ended, Dr. Edward knew his life had been forever changed. The boy who had walked into his office as a patient had given him the greatest gift imaginable, proof that love transcends death, that consciousness survives beyond the physical body, and that sometimes, if we're very lucky, we get a second chance to say goodbye properly. Walking Miguel and Mrs. Clara to the door, Dr. Edward felt lighter than he had in years. That night, for the first time since the accident, he would take out Thomas's baseball glove, not with sorrow, but with gratitude, and maybe, just maybe, he would start planning to celebrate his next birthday. After all, he had a grandson to spoil, and a miracle to celebrate. What do you think about this incredible story? Have you ever experienced something that challenged everything you believed about life and death? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing true stories that will make you question the very nature of reality itself.